So can AI really make you a better writer in English? That's a huge question, right? Today, we're going to break down what the very latest research is telling us about the promise, the peril, and the rules we absolutely need to get this right.
Oh, we have all been there. You're staring at that blinking cursor and nothing. You're just stuck. You desperately need some feedback, but it's 2 in the morning and your teacher is, asleep. This is the exact problem that AI tools like ChatGPT promise to solve. But is it really that simple?
So on the one side, the promise is incredible, right? You get instant feedback 24/7, tailored just for you. But on the flip side, the peril is just as real. Are we just getting cosmetic, surface-level fixes? Are we in danger of losing our own unique writing voice? Or even worse, are we becoming way too dependent on it? And that is the core tension we really need to dig into. To navigate all this, experts are basically saying, hold on a minute. Before we just unleash this tool, we need a rule book. Think of it as a philosophy for using AI in the classroom. This isn't about banning the tech, not at all. It's about figuring out how to use it wisely.
And that philosophy has a name, human-centered AI. And as the British Council defines it here, the key idea is that AI is supposed to be a supportive tool, not the one calling all the shots. The focus always has to be on what the student, the human, actually needs for a fair, responsible education.
The first principle is so simple, but it is so powerful. Humans come before technology. It just means the goal is always the student's actual growth and development, not just showing off what some cool new app can do. Basically, the tech works for us, we don't work for the tech.
And that leads right into the second principle. Educators are absolutely essential. Let's be really clear here. AI is not a replacement for a teacher. It's a tool that's meant to supplement their work, maybe handle some of the boring, repetitive stuff, so the human teacher can focus on what they do best, inspiring, guiding, and teaching that deep, nuanced understanding that only a person can.
Okay, so that's the ideal world, right? That's the rulebook. But what happens when the rubber meets the road? How does a tool like ChatGPT actually perform when it's put to the test in real classrooms? Well, let's take a look at the data.
A major systematic review from UNED decided to do exactly that. And they didn't just ask a few people. They dug deep into 30 different scientific studies to get a clear, evidence-based picture of what's going on. This wasn't about opinions. It was about measurable, real-world impact.
And what they found, well, it's pretty revealing. The results show this very distinct pattern of what ChatGPT is great at, what it's not so great at, and one big recurring problem that kept popping up again and again.
Okay, so take a look at this. The data could not be clearer. The biggest win, by far, we're talking 13 separate studies pointed this out, is on linguistic accuracy. Things like grammar, spelling, punctuation. It's a fantastic proofreader. It's also pretty helpful with organization. But notice what's lower down the list. Content, the actual ideas behind the writing. And that's where things start to get really interesting.
And that brings us directly to the biggest red flag, which this quote from one of the studies just hits the nail on the head. Students began to feel detached from their own writing process. Whoa! Think about that. Even if the essay looked better on the surface, it raised these huge concerns about their creativity and, whether the writing was even theirs anymore.
These are the hidden costs, because they're a really big deal. Researchers found that students started playing it safe, adopting this cautious writing approach, where they cared more about being correct than being creative. And for learners who were already struggling a bit, they found it really hard to use the feedback for anything more than just fixing typos. So at the end of the day, the very tool that was meant to help them could actually end up chipping away at their sense of ownership and their critical thinking skills.
So let's bring all this together. When you look at the real-world data from these studies, it perfectly shows why those human-centered principles we talked about before aren't just some nice, fluffy ideas. They are absolutely 100% essential.
So the most crucial takeaway is this. You have to think of AI as a powerful co-pilot. It can check the instruments, handle routine communications, spot potential issues. That's all great. But you, the writer, the student, you have to stay the pilot. You're the one making the critical decisions, choosing the destination, and actually flying the plane. It is not an autopilot for writing.
So how do we actually do this? How do we put this into practice? Well, the research points to 3 keys to using AI smartly. First, we've got to teach prompting skills, helping students ask better, smarter questions to get better feedback. Second, we have to foster critical thinking, training students to evaluate and even argue with the AI suggestions, not just blindly accept them. And third, and this is so important, we have to keep our teachers in the loop. That human oversight and guidance has to stay at the very center of learning.
Look, at the end of the day, ChatGPT and tools like it are here to stay.
They are incredibly powerful, and they are only getting more powerful. The technology itself isn't really the issue. The real question that all of us have to answer, as students, as teachers, as learners, is this: who's really in control?